morning. It's nice to be back at St. Paul's. This is my second time here as pastor in residence for Global Refuge. That's the name I made up for myself when I volunteered to fund retirement and go to work for Global Refuge the day after I retired from Mount Olive. But it's good to be here. This is my second visit to Global Refuge with you here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. When I was here in October, looking up, Jim, October of 23, it was Reformation Sunday, actually, I think. That Sunday, I shared some history of Global Refuge, the still new name for what was known as Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. Now, for the benefit of those who weren't here in 2023, here's a brief summary of that history. For 86 years, Global Refuge has worked with immigrants and refugees from all over the world, helping them resettle here in the U.S. And over these 86 years, Global Refuge has helped refugees from Hungary, Cuba, Germany, Vietnam, Cambodia, Burma, and that list, Cuba, that list will go on and on. During 86 years, since 1939, we, that is, you and I, through Global Refuge and Lutheran congregations, have placed 750,000 refugees into this country. This work continued until recently, as recently we have helped resettle Afghans, Haitians, Ukrainians, Venezuelans, Ecuadorians, and so many others, with around 20,000 refugees resettled here in the U.S. last year just by Global Refuge. The total was 125,000 with all the agencies. And until recently, we had 55 resettlement sites across the USA. And until recently, Global Refuge was the principal U.S. agency helping the tens of thousands of unaccompanied minor children who enter this country each year. Last year, we helped more than 21,000 children who came across the border by themselves. You might remember the children in cages from the first administration of the present person who occupies the White House. At that time, I think that was 6 years ago-ish, Global Refuge was asked by the federal government to quickly find foster care families for those children, and very quickly, Lutherans and others volunteered to find homes for 5,600 of those children. We are continuing our new work in Guatemala and Mexico. This is new work for us. Guatemala and Mexico are two of the major places where these unaccompanied youth, when they're deported, are sent back. And many of them have never lived in those countries to which they're deported. And our agency there is trying to help them get resettled into that country. And also work in those countries so that people don't have to leave as refugees. We still operate 3 welcome centers across the country: San Antonio, Fargo, and Baltimore. And I can tell you this morning that very soon we'll be starting a welcome center in San Diego. This is we're working on this for a long time. You may not tell I swear it is, but we're going to have it. These welcome centers especially help those who are seeking asylum in this country. Asylum is a long and difficult process, and there's no help for asylum seekers from the government. And so that process can take years, but we also help other immigrants and refugees with whatever their needs are. We've started a bank that makes microloans for refugee families. You won't be surprised these loans are mainly made to women to start home industries. And until recently, we worked with U.S. businesses who were hungry for job placements, for jobs that current citizens do not want to do. Now that's a quick summary. I said more then, but that's a quick summary of what I shared in October 23 with, as you can imagine, a few updates in there. However, as you may know, much has changed since the new administration in Washington took power in January of this year. In January 2025, the new U.S. administration made dramatic changes in how organizations such as Global Refuge can work with approved refugees. Changes which will not only change, but could curtail much of our work. The first change, made by executive order on the new president's first day, was to cut the number of approved refugees for 2025 to 0. Now, this number is set by the president each year, but until this year it was made in consultation with Congress. And except for the current president's first term, this number has been between 100,000 and 200,000 each year for many years. After the Vietnamese War, with Cambodians and Vietnamese coming, it was up to 500,000. The law allows it to be 600,000. Now, during this president's first term, he reduced the number to 14,000, the lowest ever. And so it's been 4 years of trying to get that number up, and last year we got it up to 125,000, and now it will be 0 for the first time. Now, please understand, these are not the so-called illegal aliens coming across our southern border. These are not undocumented here without permission. These are the annual number of refugees our nation has admitted every year since 1965, based on quotas set by Congress for nations around the world. Each nation had a quota, and so many refugees could come in under those numbers. These folks have been waiting for 5, 10, 15 years or more for entry. They've had exhaustive background checks done, and they are people like our congregations have helped resettle for these 86 years, those 750,000 people. That was the first thing, and it was bad news. But this president told us he was going to do it, so we weren't totally surprised. And then it got worse. On his second action, this new president did was to halt all refugee arrivals currently in process. Now, these are people who have waited years to enter this country. They've been approved, background checks. They had sponsoring congregations waiting for them, families waiting for them. Many of them had airline tickets in their hand, and they were waiting at airports. And the president, by executive order, forbade them from coming. 5,000 to 6,000 of these people, and this is really bad because many of these people had left refugee camps to go to the airport, had sold any goods they had left. And of course, their place in the refugee camp has now been taken by somebody else. We do not know where these people are. They disappeared. Okay. Now it's hard to imagine that this could get any worse, and then it did. At the end of the new administration's first week, 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, the State Department ordered Global Refuge and all the other refugee resettlement agencies to stop aiding the refugees who were already here legally. Refugees who were receiving U.S. government support through Global Refuge and through our local social service agencies. Each refugee who's approved for entry gets $1,000 per person per month for just 3 months. Now, you know that doesn't go very far, especially in California and other high-rent states, but it's something with them with help of congregations and families to get them started. And we normally would front this money because we have contracts with the federal government for this money approved by Congress. And all of a sudden, there was no money to help the people who were already here. So these people were faced with possible homelessness and hunger because of this action. We challenged this action in court, and we won. And the response to the State Department 2 weeks later was to terminate the U.S. refugee program with all 10 agencies. For the first time in nearly a century, there was going to be no refugee program in the United States. That's how they reacted. This marked the end of refugee resettlement work we've done for 86 years. And now, as I said, not only for ours, but all the other agencies which have been doing refugee resettlement for many years also. Then, in recent weeks, this was the hardest we were talking about, folks. In recent weeks, the administration has announced the end of protected status here in the U.S. of a number of groups. There is a temporary protected status, TPS, given to groups that the president can do when there are large groups of people who are in immediate danger of being killed. These groups in the U.S. right now include Haitians, Ukrainians, and even Afghans. This action puts all these people in the line to be deported back to their home countries. Let that sink in a minute. We could send Afghans who helped us in the war effort, back to certain death in Afghanistan. There is no question what will happen to any Afghans that are here who are sent back to Afghanistan. This is just cruel. What can we do? Well, let me tell you, especially doing this work, it's really easy to feel helpless, but we are not. Right now, frankly, the biggest need is money. Money that Global Refuge can use through our partner agencies to help the refugees who are here now and to challenge all these actions in court. And we're also using it to beef up our national staff who respond to individual requests for help. We've never done that out of our national office. Circumstances now force us to do that with the hundreds and thousands of people who are calling for help. And also beef up our legal status, to be honest. We need your support. As you can imagine, many of these situations we're dealing with now are life and death. I'll be very glad to give you your donations today by cash or check. You can go to our website and make a donation on your credit card, or there's an address there to send in donations. It's an immediate need that will save lives. Second, we have to keep after our representatives in Washington. We have to let them know how cruel this is. Refugee sponsorship has never been a partisan issue in the history of this country. It's been supported by Republicans and Democrats. Which president allowed 500,000 Vietnamese and Cambodians in this country? Gerald Ford. You know, it's been supported by evangelical and mainline Christian groups. Franklin Graham did refugee work. We need to tell members of Congress and anyone else who's listening, tell them to protect Afghans and Ukrainians and restart the U.S. refugee resettlement program. Now let me say this. Our U.S. senators from California are with us. Our local congressperson here is Ted Lieu, right? Is with us. Chris and I live in Claremont. Our congresswoman is with us. But they still need to hear from us because they need to know that this is important for them to get involved in when the president is throwing dozens and dozens of things at them. And they need to feel support in their efforts on behalf of refugees and immigrants. And of course, the third thing is we need to keep informed. When I go out like this, especially since January 20th, people say, I didn't know any of this. And one way you can keep informed is to sign up. We have a special e-newsletter for Lutherans, frankly, and you can sign up on our website. We also have a sign-up sheet after worship that you can sign up for that e-newsletter to be kept informed. Globalrefuge.org is our website. We will find lots of resources, including how to sign up for the newsletter. And fourth, we need to underpin all of these efforts in prayer. Prayers for a change of heart by our Washington leaders. Prayers for support for our refugee neighbors and friends. And prayers for all those working on behalf of immigrants and refugees in our nation and around the world. Our CEO is getting rid of death threats. That's where we are, folks. Our great data lake for these things, sometimes more than once a day. And I hope you will too. We are not helpless. We must hold on to hope. In today's gospel lesson, Jesus prays for all believers, longing for unity and expressing his deep desire that they should be one, just as he is one with the Father. Jesus speaks of divine love, inclusion and belonging, affirming God's presence and glory that they are meant for all people. The great theme for refugees, great theme for Pride Month, is a great theme for Easter. For immigrants and refugees, this passage serves as a powerful reminder that God's kingdom is not bound by national borders, cultural differences, or legal status. Jesus prays for unity, and his prayer reflects the heart of God, God who welcomes the displaced, the weary, and the broken into God's family. Many immigrants and refugees leave their homelands seeking safety, opportunity, or simply a place where they can be accepted and be safe. Especially today that they are feeling abandoned, misunderstood, and invisible. Jesus' prayer affirms their worth and belonging, just as Christ invited all believers to share in his love and glory. The church is called to embody this same radical hospitality, to be a place of refuge, acceptance, and compassion. May we, as followers of Christ, respond to this call to love, to welcome, and to stand in solidarity with those seeking refuge. In doing so, we reflect the very heart of God, who longs for all of his children to know that they are seen, loved, and never alone. Connection with global refuge is one way you can help make sure that refugees and immigrants, despite whatever is happening in our nation, refugees and immigrants are seen, loved,